my dad was an amazing, hardworking man. And I picked up some of his good traits, like the persistence, the perseverance, the grit, the hard work. But I also picked up some of his bad habits. And some of the bad habits were he never asked for help and he never found a coach or a mentor. He never had any partners. So I kind of indirectly picked up on that. And for the first 10 years or so of my career, I thought like that. I don't want to have a partner. I don't want to have a coach. I don't want to be mentored by anybody. I don't want to have anybody else. And I don't want to ask for help. So much so that I never, ever borrow money for my business. So that limited my growth.
Welcome to the Level Up Podcast. Our goal is that by listening to our podcast, you will be inspired to level up. With the help of some amazing guests, we'll be inspired by some inspirational success stories and find out how you can level up your business, your life, and your relationship with yourself. Because I know that by leveling up and balancing these three aspects of your life, you can make a difference and impact the lives around you. Level Up Podcast will be a series of interviews featuring successful professionals who are making a mark and a difference in their lives and others. They will share their incredible stories of how they did it, so you can be inspired and learn from the very best.
So, well, first of all, thank you so much, Carlos, for giving me the opportunity to have you on board. This is an amazing opportunity. I got to meet you not too long ago, but it was great connection. I feel there is so much that we're going to be able to learn today from you. I'm super excited that you make the time. So, welcome to the podcast, and we are ready.
Thanks so much, Bertha. I'm so excited to be here. It's always great to share my knowledge, my insight, my story. So I'm happy. Let's get started.
Absolutely, and I'm super excited about this story because as soon as we started talking and connecting, I was like, oh my God, this people needs to hear this. This is something that a lot of people need to know about you, and I know you have a huge influence in the business of multi units. So I know our audience today are going to learn tons from you. So first of all, let's start up with who is Carlos? Where is he from? I know you already talked to me about it, but I'd love to be able to share with the audience where are you from and share us a little about your beginnings on the U.S.
Thank you. Yes. So I came to the US at 17 years old, the first ever in my family. I'm originally from Quito, Ecuador. And, my parents grew up. My dad was especially very, very poor in a little town in Ecuador. My mom lived in the capital. They met in their 30s, got married, had us. But I think one of their desires was always to give us a great education. So they sacrificed a lot for us to go to a school that will teach us English. So we grew up bilingual by being in an American school in Ecuador. And my dad's dream was always for us to end up in the US. So throughout our life and our childhood and when we were teens and everything, he always said, guys, you got to go study in the US. You got to go find an opportunity. And it came from a place where he had friends that he had gone to school in high school in particular, that as soon as they graduated high school, they came to the US. And on the surface, it looked like they were doing great because, when people come from one of our countries to the US, they never tell you that they're struggling, right? They're like, oh man, it's great here, we're doing great, we're making all this money, and they're sending money back, right? So it seems like this idea, but sometimes the story over here is not the same. But anyways, so I grew up thinking that the US was the best country in the world and that the American dream was possible here and opportunities. And I'm glad I believed that because when I got here, that was what I expected. I expected a place where everything I worked hard for could be achieved. So I went to college. I went to college in a small college here in Pueblo, Colorado. I live in Denver now. And it was called back in the times University of Southern Colorado. Now it's Colorado State Pueblo. In a small town, right? Very good for studying, not good for partying or anything that kids in college do these days. So that's what I did. I got 2 degrees. I got an undergrad in business, and I got a master's in engineering. And one of the things that I did right away is I worked because my dad said, Carlos, you have 6 months of tuition. After that, you figure it out. So as soon as I landed, I was like, what can I do to make some money to pay for my tuition
Mhm.
after the first semester is over. And I
So what
started.
was your first job?
Oh, my first job at school was in the catering department. The catering department at the
Oh,
university was busy doing weddings and events and awards and galas and stuff like that. So I was one of the guys that in the beginning was a busboy, cleaning up after the mess till 4 in the morning, and then I had to be in class at 8 a.m. And later on, I got promoted to a waiter. I got promoted to the guy that supervised the staff, and then at the same
okay.
time, I ended up working in the international studies department, talking to international students, trying to pitch them to come to the college. So I did a little bit of everything in the 5 years that I was at the school. And also, I started my what I would call my first business here in the US, which was the college was buying a lot of printing material, like flyers and brochures and postcards and booklets. And my dad had a small printing company in Ecuador. So I had this amazing idea, and it was a crazy idea. And I said, hey, what if I can sell the university the printed materials that my dad is making in Ecuador? So I
Oh,
made friends and built relationships with the dean and the president and the vice president, and I volunteered my time in their office to so that just to get to know them, right? And
right.
eventually, I got brave enough to say, "Hey, my dad is a printer in Ecuador. Would you mind me if I give you a bid for these brochures that you're printing?" And they're like, "Carlos, we have our printer that we've used for 15 years. I don't know if you can ever beat their prices or their quality, but send it." So I talked to my dad. I said, "Hey, Dad, look, we have a big shot of this. Let's make him some samples. Let's throw me a box with everything that you've made, so that I can put it in their office and also give me a bid." Anyways, it took me a little bit of time, but eventually I convinced them to give me one job, which was like brochures for
Wow.
the International Studies Department. And that was my first sale to the university. So after that first job, I did so well that they gave me another job and another job. And eventually that business plus the two actual jobs that I had paid for my university for the rest of the university. And my parents didn't have to support me after that. So that was kind of my first business, my first jobs here in the US. And after that, I think it gave me enough confidence that I could figure things out. And I think if I have a message for the audience today is that, look, you don't need to be perfect at anything. You don't need to be the best at something. You just need to have enough confidence and belief to figure how to do it. Don't get stopped by a challenge, by a difficulty,
Absolutely.
by an obstacle.
Right.
Just think about, how
I
do I
love that.
overcome? Yeah, how do I attack this challenge? Who do I recruit to help me? How do I go
Right.
around it, over it, through it? But there's something at the end of at the other side, instead of walking the other direction and giving up. So that
Right.
was my
And
beginning.
you know,
And
you
you,
touch
Bertha.
that is amazing story. See, that's what I'm telling you. We needed to hear the whole beginnings of Carlos, because it's amazing how a lot of times we see the success now and we're like, but it was easy for him. But not until we start talking and getting to know how was the beginning of everything. And most of us will realize that, like you said, it was not easy. There were challenges, there were things you needed to overcome, and there were things that you need to be patient with. You mentioned you had
Yes.
to wait, volunteer, start somewhere. And that's the one thing that I think that you just nail it with, don't giving up, but also sometimes being patient and waiting for the right time to be able to take that, step on asking for the business, or asking for that opportunity that sometimes will open up doors that allow you to go into the next project. And you said it perfectly. Then from one took you to be the into the bigger project. So school, then again working through school, graduation. What was
Yeah.
the next step for Carlos after that period of,
So
of, of time
I
of enjoying?
graduated. I graduated from college with my business degree. Then they told me, "Hey, Carlos, we have this program that you could finish your master's degree in a year instead of two, and you already took all the
Wow.
math." So they sold me on getting a master's degree in a year instead of two. And I was like, "What is it going to take?" Well, you have to do 60 hours of credits. And I'm like, wow, I have two jobs. I have a little business on the side, 60 hours of credits. And of course, I'm like, let's do it. So I
Go get
did it.
it.
Yeah, I was like, all right. I mean, I didn't want to give up the chance because in my mind was like, wow, I can do it in half the time, half the cost,
Right.
because it was only
Mhm.
2 semesters of tuition instead of 4, right? So I went
Right.
for it, got the master's degree in industrial engineering, and then after that, I thought I was going to go back to Ecuador and work for my dad in the printing company. And I called him up. I said, Dad, now that I graduated, what do you think? I go back and run your business. And he's like, son, you know what? I think I'm going to retire next year. I think I'm going to sell the machines. I think I'm gonna sell the business. I'm gonna just keep the real estate because he had built a little industrial complex where his business was at, and I'm just gonna live in my
Okay.
farm. He had gotten a farm, which was a crazy deal for him. He traded a Ford Bronco for a 5-acre farm back in those days, which I wish I could do that today. But he was a
What a
deal
deal,
maker.
right?
Yeah,
He made a deal.
the Broncos in the junkyard right now, or in pieces. The farm's still there. We still own it. Um,
There you
so,
go.
anyway, so he tells me this, and I felt a little bit rejected because I was like, one of my dreams was to go be with my dad, right, my hero, because he was my example, my the person that I admire the most in terms of work ethic and persistence and perseverance. He was a cancer survivor 3 times, and one time he lost it all because he had to cover his medical expenses with the stuff in his business, and then build it all back up. So I wanted to go be with him, but you know what? I think he was wise because first of all, he didn't retire next year. It took him another 10 years to retire, so he lied to me. But I think in his wisdom, he said, these kids have a much better chance in the US. And by
Right.
that time, my brother Ricardo had also joined me in college, and he's 3 years younger than me. So I was his legal guardian for a little bit until he turned 18. And then he also graduated just a couple years after I did. And, we went to California. And the reason we went to California is because I heard that in the Silicon Valley, the tech companies were paying a lot of money for these engineering
Right.
jobs. So I was like, you know what? Let me go try my luck. So I went to California. I interviewed with a few. And then one of the ones that I wanted to work with was Hewlett Packard because my dad was a printer. So I was like, oh, I want to work for a printing company. And I went in and I applied, and they said, Carlos, I'm sorry, we're only hiring experienced engineers. And I'm like, experienced
Wow.
engineers? Like, I don't have experience. I just graduated. Well, you need to have at least 3 to 5 years of experience. So I'm like, what else are you guys hiring? Well, we're only
Hmm.
hiring interns. Interns, really?
Wow.
How much do you pay? Nothing. I'm like, sign me up. So I started. I started as a free intern at Hewlett Packard because I was like, look,
Uh-huh.
I just need a chance. All I need is an opportunity. You give me
Right.
an opportunity, I will be the hardest worker that you've ever met. I'll be the first one in the door. I'll be the last one out the door. I will help you with projects that are not even my job. I'm going to be flexible, So I knew that if they gave me a chance, I could prove myself. And that's all I've needed all along. Just give me a chance to prove myself. So sure
Yeah.
enough, they hire me as an unpaid intern, probably thinking, oh, this guy is crazy because he has a master's degree and blah blah blah. But I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. If you want me to serve your coffee, I'll serve you your coffee. I don't care. I get in there. 6 months later, they're like, Carlos, okay, we're ready. I thought they were gonna fire me. I was like, we're ready for what? We're going to offer you a junior engineer position. I'm like, oh my God, thank you.
Wow.
So I get the junior engineer right along those days. The Silicon bubble, tech bubble, the Silicon Valley tech bubble was kind of growing. So all the startups starting offering like stock options and go work for the internet companies. And a lot of the engineers at HP actually took those because it was
Wow.
more salary, stock options, basically the promise of making a lot of money quick. And a lot of
Right.
engineers
Hmm.
jumped the ship. So that created a lot of opportunity for me. I also got a couple offers, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay with the established company that is more secure. I think I have a future here. So I was there for 5 years total. And
Okay.
I just climbed the ladder so fast because so many people left. So that created a
Okay.
lot of opportunity, and I was working super hard. So by the time I got there, between when I was a free intern to the end of my career there, I became engineering manager for North America laser printing with like 100 engineers in my supervision, and I was in my 20s.
Wow.
So a lot of these engineers were double my age. Of course, it was hard to tell them that hey, you got to do this, because they're probably thinking, man, what is this kid thinking? I'm double your age. I have more experience. But you know what? Thankfully, one thing that I've never cared about is what people think about me. And I think that's another big lesson for people listening to this is like, look,
Absolutely.
you do you, right? You focus on your path, on your goal, on your passion, and just stick with it. Don't care about what family says, what friends says, just especially if it's negative, right? If they're encouraging you, if they're cheering you on, if they're excited for you to succeed and win and try new things, take it. If it's negativity, cut it out.
Block,
So
block it, put it away.
yeah, exactly. If it doesn't
Those,
serve you, push it out.
let it go. Push it
Yeah,
out. Absolutely. You touch on a few things that are very, very important. Thank you, Carlos, for sharing that part of your story. It's amazing, and you are absolutely right. When the opportunities show up, you better be ready to take advantage of them. You know, like you were ready. You waited long enough. The opportunity showed up. Then people left. You had an opportunity to grow, and you took it. And
exactly.
again, the
Yeah,
last part is amazing. Where in our culture, and I think you and I spoke a little bit about this last time we got a chance to talk about our culture. A lot of times we don't see that much support. They see you that you're doing something different. They try to pull you down, say, "Hey, hey, hey, don't get too excited. You know, you need to stay here, save. You know, don't take too many risks. You know, it might be, it might not be the right thing for you to do. Just stay here. It's gonna be okay." And that's something that I really wanted to emphasize today with your story is take the risk. You know, go ahead and look for those opportunities because if you don't, then you'll never know. I particularly have a saying: I rather regret doing something and not regret that I didn't take the chance because you
yeah.
always can say, at least I tried, at least I gave it a chance and it didn't work. But if you hold that opportunity and never took the opportunity to try it, then you always be thinking, what if? What if I would have done
What do
this?
you?
What if I would have tried that? And what if does not exist? That's what I believe.
Mhm.
So thank you,
So
thank you.
true.
So going forward again, you worked there for 5 years. Then what was that next move for Carlos? What ended up happening after that? Because I
Yeah,
know
so
you
I
share
worked
with
there
me,
for
but
five.
share with.
I worked for there for 5 years. It was a great job, stable. I felt it was secure until the dot com bubble in Silicon Valley popped in the 2000, and
Mm-hmm,
9/11 happened right after. And what a lot of the big companies do when there's a little bit of recession talk, sometimes it doesn't even have to be a recession. As soon as there's recession talk, they start trimming people, and it's the most expensive resource that companies have, especially big companies, right? So I was giving the really painful task to fire half of my team, half of my engineering team, with no reason, no explanation, no apology. And it was heartbreaking. I had to get rid of 50
can
engineers
imagine.
that had families, mortgages, they had bills to pay. And in less than 2 weeks, they were going to be out of a job with a small severance package. So, I that was one of the things that hit me so hard that lit a fire in me to say, you know what? I could be the one next. I could be the one across that table just a few years from now where I get the axe. And there's no explanation or anything about. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to put myself in that position. So I started looking for opportunity of how do I start a business, because I always had that entrepreneur bug. I've always tried something, right? I tried network marketing, I tried sales stuff. And what I started doing is I discovered that e-commerce was just being born. And I signed
Mm-hmm,
up for an eBay account and started flipping products. I started flipping technology product, toner cartridges, servers, computers, laptops, stuff. And I started making some
mm-hmm.
money. I was buying stuff at a discount, I was flipping it on the internet, and the little business just took off. I was doing it from my little one bedroom apartment close to my office, and I packed the little garage that I had in the one bedroom apartment with stuff. And within 6 months, I was replacing my income from HP. So I was like, wow, you know, what if I could dedicate 100% of my time? Because this was like, I was moonlighting at this business. I would get off work like
Mhm.
at 6, eat a quick dinner, start at 7, and finish at 1 or 2 in the morning, be up again at 5, put a couple hours in, and then go to work. And, in 6 months, I was able to replace my income, left HP. People thought I was crazy. Thank God my family didn't think I was crazy. My family actually encouraged me and said, man, if it's working for you, go for it. But
That's
my
good.
old boss thought I was crazy. My engineer supervisors and my employees thought that I was like loony. They're like, oh, you'll be back. And I'm like, maybe. But
Maybe,
I
right?
always have this backup if it doesn't work. So I left, right? Left the security of a job, which many of you guys know that there's really no security in a job.
Well,
And I
no.
started my little business. And then I moved back to Colorado because the Bay Area was super expensive and I could
Mm-hmm.
never see myself buying any real estate there. And I was even back then I was thinking real estate. So I moved back.
Okay.
My mom had moved to the U.S. because she married someone that lived in Colorado, and I rented a
Mm-hmm.
room, I rented a garage, and then a month later, I hired my mama, I hired my stepdad, I met my wife. A few months later, I hired my wife for my third employee, and then the business took off. We graduated
That's
from the garage to a little warehouse to a bigger warehouse, and then I had the chance to buy my first commercial real estate deal because I needed it. I needed a warehouse for my business, and it was a very hard transaction because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to
okay.
buy commercial real estate, and I was guessing and I was hoping that my broker will teach me, but he was not in it to teach me. He was in it to make his commission. So he was trying to sell me the most expensive thing instead of the stuff that would actually, work for me. And thankfully, I got smart, figured out that he was in it not to help me, but to earn his commission. And I ended up firing my first commercial broker. That was my first commercial broker that I fired because he was trying to sell me into a big warehouse that was way too big, way too expensive. I probably would have lost
Okay.
that deal if I had invested because I was not financially capable at that point. And I ended up buying this beautiful 1950s 50,000 square feet warehouse here in Denver, only 5 minutes away from my house. That today is our distribution center. So my little business grew from a little one bedroom apartment garage to a 50,000 square feet building within 5 years time, and we've been there for 12 years. It's another one of my big businesses that I have right now. So we now have the e-commerce, the logistics business, the marketing business. I started a printing company in honor of my dad that passed away a few years ago, and that business is also doing really good. And of course, over the years, I became a real
Mm-hmm.
estate investor. I
There you
I,
go.
I
And we're gonna go next. That's the part that I'm super excited about sharing. But you
yeah.
touched on something that I wanted to emphasize. You said about creating different businesses. And a lot of times, again, in our culture, we get scared, not even leaving the job, but nonetheless to go and start up not only one business, but two, three, four. I already counted four. So how do you get into that? I mean, what did it took you to say, okay, if I have one going, I can start the next one and I can go into the next one and it might go hand by hand, right? Sometimes. Tell me,
Well,
how did that came about?
I'm glad you asked this question because sometimes people do too many things at the same time. And when I tell this story, people think, oh man, he was doing like five businesses at the same time. No. Every business that I've started, I've
Mm-hmm.
done only one thing at a time. So when I was doing
Okay.
my e-commerce thing, it was my e-commerce thing. I was thinking about it 24/7. I was focused on it to grow, 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 build the team, delegate what I didn't want to do. Like I did it all, right? I started from sweeping the floors to packaging the products to answering emails, customer service. I did everything. But what I think I've been good at over the years is delegating, finding people that are good at what I
Me
don't
too.
want to do, put them in the right spot and teach him and train him and lead them. And then that makes me free to go do what I do best, which is growth, strategy, sales,
Right.
and continue to do that. So every single one of these businesses that we talked about, the e-commerce, the logistics, the marketing, the printing, I started it. I built it to a point where now I had managers running the show. They needed very little of my help to continue to grow and
Okay.
maintain the business. And then I've gone to the next thing.
Mhm.
And they're all complementary businesses. I've never started, I didn't go and start a restaurant because
You're
a
right,
restaurant
and that's what I was going.
didn't complement my one thing, right? The e-commerce needed a warehouse that shipped products and stored products. So I started the fulfillment to help my e-commerce, and it became a big thing on its own. The printing, I was buying. A lot of our customers were like, hey, where do I buy these stickers? Where do I buy these labels? Where do I buy this stuff? And I'm like, you know what, we can do that. I know how to print. I grew up in my dad's office watching him, so we bought some machines, hired some people, and now we became a printer. So every single
Okay.
one of those businesses became a complementary thing to the other. The marketing, same thing. I was like, you know what? I need to become good at marketing because businesses without marketing don't grow and many times fail because they're only hoping and praying that some referrals will come through the door. So all of these
Right.
were complementary things. And then, that led me to
Amazing.
bigger opportunities.
Amazing. You touch on delegation. We have to utilize other people's talents. Everybody has different talents, and I've always believed that we need to surround ourselves with the right people, and our businesses will grow. And again, you
Yes.
have to learn from the beginning to the end, so you know how to teach someone else to do it. But you do not have to do it all, and that's something that I've learned over the last years, and I had gotten better at delegating. So, thank you for sharing that part. Now, is there anybody in a specific, Carlos, that you feel was the biggest influence as you were going through your career and you're opening up this business? Do you had any type of mentorship, coaches? Is there anything you got help in terms of getting all this stuff going and putting them into place?
So that I think was probably one of my downfalls, Bertha, and it sounds like it's not a
Oh,
downfall, but one bad habit. Like I always say this, my dad was an amazing, hardworking man, and I picked up some of his good traits, like the persistence, the perseverance, the grit, the hard work. But I also picked up some of his bad habits, and some of the bad habits where he never asked for help, and he never found a coach or a mentor. He never had any partners. So I kind of indirectly picked up on that. And for the first 10 years or so of my career, I thought like that. I don't want to have a partner. I don't want to have a coach. I don't want to be mentored by anybody. I don't want to have anybody else. And I don't want to ask for help. So much so that I never ever borrow money for my business. So that limited my growth. Even though
right.
people think like,
Okay.
man, I bootstrapped it, 100% bootstrapped it. The most credit I got was from my credit cards. I would buy them, pay them off every month, right? So they became a tool
Right.
just to float some cash. So for
Yes.
the first 10 years of my business career, I struggled. I had success because I was like persistent, like you'd never believe. But I struggled because I never had anybody that I can pick up the phone and said, "Hey man, you probably know an answer for this. What is the
How do I do this?
what do I do?" So I had to make mistakes. I had to learn from errors. I lost some money in some deals, and at some point, once I became somewhat successful, I hit a limit to my success. And as
There
much
you
as I
go.
could try, I kept hitting that limit, and I was talking to myself and thinking to myself, why can't I go over this limit in my sales in my business? And I started reading more books. I started getting some more information. And in one of the books, I said, the way to break through these limiting points and beliefs and ceilings in your business is you got to get around people that have had more success than you. So then the light bulb goes off, and I'm like, shoot, I need to start going to masterminds, to conferences, to meet some people. I need to go find some mentors because my only mentors up to that point were my books, my tapes, I was an Amway distributor. So one thing they did good there is they said, Carlos, you got to listen to a tape every day. You got to read a book at least once a month. And you know what? I was a good
Wow.
student. So I was like, yeah, I'll do that. But I didn't have a coach. So it took me 10 years. So if I would do something again, I would have gotten a coach right away. I would have invested the money, the time, the effort, the energy to get somebody that already had what I wanted guide me and show me. And eventually, I found some coaches in the e-commerce space. I started following a few very successful individuals, and that exploded my e-commerce business because now I was basically borrowing their techniques and their strategies and their
Ideas.
mindset, and that took my business to a whole new level. So from barely a few $1 million in sales that we were doing, we hit 8 figures in many of our businesses. Then I in one of those masterminds. I networked with the right people. I started a supplement company with a guy that I met in one of those. Actually, not even a guy that I met in one of those things. A referral from a guy that I met in one of those conferences, and that
Okay.
company grew from 0 to 8 figures in 18 months, and we sold it.
Wow.
So imagine if I had for the first 10 years done also that, probably
Some
be
of it.
10 times where I'm at today. But I'm telling you the story because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I made. And we've all
Right.
successful people made mistakes, and a bunch of them.
Yes. And being vulnerable, sharing these stories, because a lot of times, our ego doesn't allow us to say, hey, this is what I felt.
Totally.
These are the things that I could have done better. But, it was too much in my ego that I'm not going to admit that I made any mistake. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that part. So obviously, again, perseverance is amazing, and learning, networking, and a mastermind. I truly believe in the mastermind. It's referenced on Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich, where when two minds come together and start sharing ideas, collaborating, great businesses and great ideas will come up. And again, you get to share those, and the more you share with others, and the more you learn. And that's obviously something that it looks like you're definitely doing amazing nowadays with that. Um, how did you get into the business that you're really really passionate about, which is
Yeah.
again touching into the multi-unit business? Tell me, where did that started? I know you already shared with us about buying your first commercial, and the experiences you went through, but how did this came about, that you one day woke up and said, I am going to do this? How did that
Yeah.
came?
Look, I think there's two pivotal moments. And one of them is when I sold my business, I had some liquidity, I had some capital because of that sale.
Hmm.
And Bertha, I would have thought, and most people would have thought, man, you made some money, and enough for us not to work for the rest of our lives. Let's just put it that way. And I made some
Hmm.
money, and you would think that that would give me peace, and we'll see, oh, cool, it's there. But instead, it gave me anxiety because I, for the first time, have enough liquidity in the bank that was doing nothing, and I realized one of my shortcomings. I had learned how to make money. I was good at making money. I had learned how to save some money because we were very frugal along the way. Even to this day, we probably live 30-40% of below our means, if not probably in the 20s now, because we're not very material people, right? I don't drive a Lamborghini. I don't drive a Ferrari. I don't wear I don't wear a Rolex. I like simple things. I like to travel. I like to spend time with my kids. I like to go out to dinner. It's simple things and pleasures that I like. Maybe one day I'll rent a Ferrari or one of those things, right? Because I do like cars. But you know what? I felt, wow, what do I do with it? And so I realized that I didn't until that point learn how to invest my money, how to
Okay.
put it to work, how to have it multiply itself. Because you always hear, right? Put your money to work, make money while you sleep,
Yes.
learn how to make money while you sleep. But sometimes that means us in our business. It doesn't mean our money working for us. And that's a whole different level. When you learn how to become a good investor, then you're not only working for your money and saving your money, but your money's working for you and you're truly multiplying your wealth at an accelerated fashion. And then for the first time, I learned the concept of net worth. And I started focusing on, you know what? I need to I need to increase my net worth. Because up to that point, the only thing I knew was, oh, I got good credit and I have some money in the bank. But no one ever had taught me about net worth and the importance of net worth. So I started focusing on
Right.
that. So then I realized and I started analyzing, and we all have to analyze and look back at what we've done that has worked and hasn't worked. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized that over the years, I had been accumulating some properties, right? Small properties, residential, Airbnbs, duplex, triplex, my commercial building. And I had never lost any money in a real estate transaction. So I'm like, you know what?
Okay.
I've lost money in my business plenty of times, but I've never lost money in real estate.
Mhm.
Why don't I become really good
Sure.
at this real estate game? And I
Mhm.
started studying and I said, "Oh, which is the best asset class that grows the most?" And I started just doing math on what I could go do that could increase my net worth quicker. And that's how I found
Right.
multifamily, because then I
Okay.
realized about how commercial property increases in value versus residential property. And when I did that math, Bertha, that really, I like to
Nothing.
say that hurt me for the rest of my life because I could not unsee it. Once I saw it, I could not see it. It kept me awake at
And that
night.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. I grabbed one of these things and I said, "Hey, is this really real?" And in the beginning, I thought it's too good to be true. But I grabbed my
Right.
calculator and I said, "Oh, what if I buy 100-unit building, right? 100-unit building, and I increase the rent by $200? That's $20,000 of extra revenue a year, and I'm sorry, a month. And I multiply that by a year. That's $240,000 of extra revenue a year. How much does this increase the value of a building?" And then I did the math on that, and you divide by 4.5 or 5, and that's $5 million of value that you can increase in a 100-unit deal with $200 in rent. So when I saw this, I was like, this is it. I found the vehicle I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. Yeah,
What do I sign? What do I need to find this hundred unit project? Right.
exactly that. Exactly that. I was like, look, if this math is real, and then I went on a hunt of confirming if the math is real. And of course, I found plenty of people, plenty of books. I have a shelf full of books here that I read about
Mhm.
multifamily, right? And I probably read 10 books about multifamily, invested $150,000 in my multifamily education in less than a year. And I was like, this is it. So I become an expert at it in a very accelerated fashion, and I stopped buying the small properties. I started going after the big properties, and I got my
Okay.
first $20 million deal under contract, and that's how this whole craziness started.
That's amazing. Great story. Now, let me ask you, for someone looking at our interview today that has obviously maybe not enough money, as you mentioned, you had liquidated a business, you had extra money that you started thinking, what do I put it to work for me? But let's say for the average person, they're like, okay, I might not have that right now. Where can they start? Like if you have someone who says, hey, Carlos, I love that idea. Sounds amazing. Where do I start? What can I do? Can you give us a quick scenario? What would that look for someone that might not have access to as much money, but has some money maybe?
I'll give you multiple ones. I'll give you two, because
All right.
because I was also thinking, how big is my wallet, right? And I had to think
Right.
beyond my wallet. I had to think beyond my wallet because,
Mhm.
guys, I didn't have enough money to close the $20 million deal that I did. I had some of
Right.
the money, but I didn't have it all. So you got to just think beyond your bank account. That was the first step. Think beyond your bank account. Because when you think beyond your bank account, your brain, which is a gift that God gave us that is incredibly powerful beyond what you think, starts getting creative, and you start
Yes.
pushing yourself to places that you didn't even believe. And I'm sure you relate to this. Like when you have a problem at hand and you maybe at first don't have the answer, but you keep thinking about it, thinking about it, thinking about it, eventually it's like, oh wow, I got it. Here's the solution. So the first tip for people that don't have enough money or not enough money is find partners that have the money but don't have the
Right.
time. Okay, go find
That's a
somebody
good one.
that likes real estate, wants real estate, but maybe is too busy doing something else. Their business, maybe they're a professional, a doctor, a surgeon, an engineer,
Mhm.
someone that is interested, and build a strong relationship. And you become good at the real estate, really good at the real estate, so that they trust you enough that you're going to do a good job. And now you're using their money to fund your deal. And that could be one or multiple, right?
Okay.
Because look, everything you want or need is in the hands of other people. And some of those
Always.
people are strangers to you. Most of those people are strangers to you, by the way. The hardest group to work with, and this is a public announcement for everybody, is your family, guys, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
your family is the toughest crowd, guys. Strangers, interesting enough, opposed to what we might think, are easier to work with because they only see what you present to them. And then, of course, what you show them as your track record and performance. Your family knows you many times since you're a little baby and maybe a,
Right.
a, a noisy kid in the neighborhood, right? So they're still thinking about you in those terms, even though you've shown them that you've
Right.
grown and you've become better and all that stuff. But it's that complacency that familiarity brings. So for people out there
Right.
that don't have enough money and want to do bigger deals, look, go look for the deal. Learn how to analyze the deal. Study it. Invest in yourself, in your education. The best investment you'll
Right.
ever make is in yourself. Grab a book, listen to some tapes, watch some YouTube videos, invest in a mentorship program. Do stuff that is going to take you to the next level. And once you're at that next
Listen
level,
to
no,
listen to a podcast. Listen to a podcast like this one where you get to
yeah,
hear it for free from someone who's doing it and is willing to
yeah,
share.
100%,
Yes.
100%. And then once you
Uh,
make those little investments of time, energy, and money, then you're gonna start realizing, oh wow, I think I can go find a deal that maybe you don't have all the money for, but you can start calling some people and say, hey, look, I know that you've done well in your business. I know you've done well with your practice. I know you've done well with this. If I find a deal that makes sense for the both of us, can I consider you one of my investors? And you'll realize that more people than not will say, yeah, man, bring me a deal. Let's see a deal. Because people don't have time to go look for deals.
right.
And that's how I have figured out how to scale my real estate business, because now I'm the one in my team hunting for the deals. And then once we have a great deal, I go to busy professionals like Bertha that say, hey, Bertha, here is a deal. Put some money in the deal. Let's become partners in this deal. And then she
Right.
gets to invest in my property, that she's also now an owner of the property. And that's how partnerships happen. And you can buy something much bigger with someone right after, instead of being stuck in the little stuff, because sometimes we're stuck in the little stuff that we only have cash.
Right, right. Thank you so much for sharing that. Philosophy, because it's definitely interesting. A lot of times we are waiting for the right time, or like you were saying, wait until we have enough money, and we're limiting ourselves from opportunities like the ones you just give us an
Oh yeah.
example of. So thank you for sharing that part. So what is
Right.
that you're working? I know you have a really good project on that you're working on. Do you want to share a little bit about where that looks like
Yeah.
for anybody who's interested? Obviously, we'll go ahead and put your info as we edit the video, and people will be able to contact you and get more details and specifics. But what is it that you're working on right now?
Love it. Thank you, Bertha. So we are buying Class A properties in Class A locations. The property that we
Okay.
have under contract right now, beautiful property in Lakeland, Tennessee, right outside of Memphis. It's one of the richest suburbs in Memphis area. And one of the things we noticed is not only the property is beautiful, is a mixed use, so it has apartments at the top, businesses at the bottom, so it creates a community feel for tenants. and for people that come to the businesses. But I always like properties that are in cities that are growing, that have economic development, that have investments from outside companies, and sometimes even investments from the state that they're in. So when we started underwriting this deal, it's called Lakeland Town Square in Lakeland, Tennessee. When we started
Mhm.
underwriting this deal, we realized, oh surprise, Ford Motor Company is building this $5.6 billion electric vehicle plant 25 minutes away from the property. That is literally called Ford Blue Oval City because it's 4,000 acres of manufacturing of electric batteries and electric vehicles, because Ford is pushing super hard to compete with Tesla and all the other electric car companies to, be
Company.
one of the number one sellers of electric vehicle cars. So they have this $5.6 billion investment. Then we find out that the state of Tennessee invested $900 million in this project, which is their largest investment in the history of the state. Okay, Tennessee has never invested so much money in one single corporate project. So once you have the backing of the government, big corporate giant doing this, it's
Mhm.
a good thing, right? It's not going to stop. They're already building it. They have to deliver the first electric truck out of that manufacturing line in January of 2025. So it's a sure thing, and they're going to bring
Okay.
36,000 jobs to the area. And what happens, Bertha,
So
when
there you
jobs
go.
come to an area? The real estate just goes like
Well,
this,
yeah,
right? Because they need
absolutely.
they need homes, they need apartments, they need a place to live, and they're competing with each other to relocate to that area because the jobs at the plant are so good. So,
Right.
when we saw that and we underwrote it, and we are very good conservative buyers. We underwrote it very conservative. It cash flows right now. It makes money right now. That's another thing that I've learned over the years. I don't start new companies anymore. I did that already for my first 15 years. And it's the hardest thing to do, guys. 90% plus of new startups fail in the first 3 years. What I do
Mhm.
now is I acquire businesses that are already cash flowing, that are already making money, and what I
Mhm.
do is I take over and I just manage better. I sell better, I market better, I optimize expenses, I provide better amenities, and these multifamily properties are a business. So if you take over and just do a better job, the extra income, like I showed you in the rents, explodes
Mhm.
the value of the property. So that's what we do now.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all those pieces of wisdom that you have acquired over the years. Um, is there one thing you like to share with us that you will wish you knew that now that you are being in the business this long, do you wish you knew when you started? Is there anything that you're like, I wish I would have known this and it would have saved me this or that?
For the real estate part,
The real estate or even on the other businesses. Is there any one thing that you said, I wish I
yeah.
would have known that part that it would have saved me time,
So
money, headaches?
get a coach, guys. Get a coach.
There you
Get
go.
yourself a coach.
Yeah.
Get yourself a
Invest in
coach.
yourself.
Invest in yourself, get yourselves a coach, and please, if you invest in your coach, please make sure that you're accountable to that coach. It doesn't matter if you invest a lot of money, if you don't keep yourself accountable to that coach and humble yourself to listen and take action and apply what you're being taught, might as well don't have a coach, right? It needs to
There
come
you
with a
go.
commitment. That the investment needs to come with a commitment that I'm going to do what that person tells me. I'm going to implement. I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to take the action that they ask me. Because if they were able to achieve the success that I want, then they have something and they know something that I don't know. And I have to follow those footsteps, copy that success. So that would be the one thing that I would recommend people to do is like copy people that are already successful, and don't be afraid to invest in yourself to get yourself a good coach and stick with it. I've hired coaches in almost every area of my life, in
It's
my
amazing.
financial, in my finances and business, both in e-commerce, logistics, real estate, in my fitness. I've hired coaches for many years. In my diet, I have hired coaches for many years. And even in my relationships, communication, speaking, I have a coach for speaking. I
Yeah.
have a coach for relationships. I want to hire a coach to become a better dad. You know what I mean? Look, there's people out there that are better fathers than me. I want to learn how to do it from the experts. It's not beyond me
Absolutely.
to humble myself and learn, because that's the biggest hack. Invest some money in yourself. And most people, Bertha, you know this, they don't invest any money in their education once they graduated from college or high school.
Absolutely. You just nail it. It is so true. People pay for college, paid for that education, but then they graduate and they think it's done. And also that's
Yeah.
just the beginning, because the real work comes once you're out there in the real world, getting jobs, finding those businesses that you're gonna get into. And like you said, it's very important to humble ourselves. And again, that's something super, super important that I believe in. Coaching is a must. If you are not gonna be committed, don't get a coach, because then you might as well, like you said, don't get a coach.
Exactly.
What is the
Exactly.
ultimate goal that Carlos wants to accomplish? What does that look like? What is it? My ultimate goal is to get to this level, to accomplish this part of success, if that is what you're going after. What is that ultimate goal for Carlos?
So, Bertha, inside of the next 5 years, I want to build a $1 billion multifamily real estate portfolio. Now, that's
Beautiful.
the number goal. But in order for me to do that, I need to build a world class team that is capable to go do that with me, number one. And number two, because it's a business that requires other people to come partner with us, invest in our deals and grow, I want to help a lot of families start creating wealth with real estate. Because you've heard it just as I have. If you help enough people be successful, you'll be successful yourself. And this
We talked
multifamily real
about that.
estate is that. Is that, right? It's like, hey, if I help a family that has some money saved up and doesn't know where to invest it, and I help them invest it in a real property, a real asset that is growing, that is cash flowing, that is multiplying, that is giving tax benefits, then I've helped one family change their financial future. So that's the way I see it. I'm in a mission to change the financial future of as many families as I can for the rest of my life. Hopefully, that's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions, to help them create some more wealth via real estate, and at the same time, help more people find that this is even available, because most people don't know they can invest in large real estate. And instead they're speculating, they're gambling their money, right? They're investing in cryptos, they're invested in stocks, they're invested in mutual funds. Even 401ks are sometimes tricky, and IRAs are tricky. Real estate is where it's at. Rents in this country have gone up for 75 years nonstop, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
betting on, that they will continue in that pattern. And most people, even common sense tells you, look, what they're not stopping making people, right? Especially us Latinos, we make a lot of people. So those people need housing, they need to rent, they need to live somewhere. And
Place to
that's
live.
when, yeah, a place to live. That's what the business is based on at the end of the day.
Yes, yes. You definitely had. I got chills as you were talking about it, because that's one of my things. I always feel like the more people you help, the more you're able to help yourself. And if you focus on helping,
Yeah,
results, success, money will just automatic flow, because now you're actually focusing on what's more important, which is people. People have the money, so we need to treat right our people, and everything else will fall into place.
that's true.
I love all the content, all the ideas you've given us today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we wrap this up? Again, thank you so much again for sharing your wisdom. It's amazing to have people like you in our community. They are willing to say, hey, this is how I'm doing it. This is what I did. You can do the same. Don't limit yourself. Don't sell yourself short. There is opportunities out there. Go find them. Go find the right people to partner up with. Go ask questions. A lot of times we always talk about, in order for you to learn something, you need to ask. If you never ask, you'll never know. And if you never
100%.
ask, the answer is always going to be no. But if you
Yeah,
ask, they might say yes. And that's my
that's true.
philosophy. If you never ask, you never know. And if you never ask, the answer will always be no. So, what will be your final thought? What is the one thing you want to, share with us as we're wrapping this up?
I think one of the things that always comes to mind is Doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter if you grew poor, you grew wealthy, you had a good family, a bad family, you struggled. It doesn't matter. You can change your circumstances. You are not you are not defined by what happened to you in the past. You are defined by what you decide to do today, the action that you decide to take today. Yes, are you going to struggle sometimes distancing yourself from bad experiences and a bad childhood or a bad situation or anything that might have happened? But at the end of the day, look, there's opportunity everywhere you look. And the key is surround yourself with good people. Go find positive, encouraging, successful people that are willing to pour into you. And even if you have to work for them for free, you guys. I worked for free for so many years. First for my dad, then for the college, then for Hewlett Packard. A few of my mentors I've helped at no cost. And I'm going to eventually write a book called Working for Free Made Me a Millionaire. Because even that, what I was getting in return, we have this mindset that, oh, I put an hour, I need to get paid for an hour. No, in those situations when I was volunteering my time, I was learning. I was getting paid. How was I getting paid? Not with money currency, with knowledge currency from people that were more successful than me. So take advantage of those opportunities and be willing to learn, learn, learn. And when you learn, please don't stop at the learning. Take action on what you learned. Because there's a lot of people that are book smart in this world, but they never are willing to take the step to actually grind and take the step to put it into practice. You have to be willing to put it into practice, especially as Latinos. We're super hard workers, super hard workers. We're committed, we're dedicated, we're passionate people. Sometimes what's missing is that mentorship factor of us saying, you know what? Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. Let me go lean into people that know more so that I can learn and go to the next level and go to the next level. And eventually, instead of only working so hard, which I don't think will ever stop, this, Bertha, we'll never stop working hard, but now we're working smarter. We're making our time multiply. We're having our money work for us. We are more, we're scaling more, we're more efficient. And that's when you truly get to the next level, because all of you deserve financial freedom, peace, to go do whatever you want, right? Whatever your passion is. Business at the end, real estate at the end is just a vehicle. A vehicle for what? To give you enough freedom so that you can be with your family, have peace, enjoy the things that you like, and you don't have to worry about the money thing, because the money thing is going to keep coming in even if you stop working someday. So
Yes.
that's what I recommend to people. If you want to learn, guys, just follow me on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. I'm everywhere. Carlos Salguero is my name, and I'd love to help you and encourage you and edify you and empower you to go do better.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you again. This was amazing. I know tons. I took so many mental notes that I'm going to go back right now and start writing them, because you definitely dropped some huge, huge points that can help our business and can help our lives. So thank you again for their time. Thank you for being you. Keep giving. And again, anything will come back like always does.
Thank you, Bertha. Pleasure to be here with
See
you.
you. See you soon.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Level Up Podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere else podcasts are found, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, you can leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. Until next time, we hope you level up.